The Royal College of Nursing has accused the government of bullying and said nurses will not be gagged. It comes after the Health Secretary, Steve Barclay, tells the union to call off its strike by midday or face legal action.
Well, this escalates the long-running dispute over pay and conditions. So we asked you, should nurses and other NHS staff be allowed to strike or legally banned? The police can't go on strike. The military can't go on strike. Let's have a look at the Twitter poll. You see, it's hugely unpopular, that idea. I wonder whether Steve Barclay is just fighting the wrong fight right now. Joining us now to discuss this, GP Anita Raja, who supports the strikes. But nurse practitioner Naomi Bennett is a member of the Royal College of Nursing and is against them. Very good morning to you both. Naomi, your leadership had recommended that your union accept the deal, but the union members rejected it. You think, presumably, that your leadership was right and that the strikes should not go ahead. Can you tell us why?
I feel that anything that supports patients and safeguards their outcomes, I'm in support of. I just almost feel that it's going on, you know, it's bordering on potential harm to patients, and I think that's what a lot of us also feel. We just feel that anything that will eliminate harm to patients and that will enable us to get on with our job is better.
So for that reason, do you support then striking the strikes by nurses being made illegal altogether? Because strikes, in your view, cause harm or are about to cause harm to patients, they should legally not be allowed to go ahead.
Yeah, I believe if the courts decide in favour of the government and also it safeguards patients from any future harm, I would be in support of anything that's put in place to protect patients and help the health service. I don't feel that striking necessarily is helping at the moment, and it's basically leaving patients at risk. And obviously we go into nursing because we want to do no harm, we want to cause no harm, and we want to be able to give our patients the best outcomes. And it just doesn't seem like these strikes are effective in that way at the moment.
And Naomi, on the days when there have been strikes, what did you do? Did you have to work harder to cover the jobs of people who were on strike?
Well, obviously, I do believe in fair pay, but yeah, it is critical when the workforce is understaffed. It's already understaffed and struggling. Going out on strike also compounds that and can affect patient safety. We want to improve patient outcomes. We don't want people frightened of not being able to get the care that they deserve. On specific days, it's not really fair on the general public, and I don't think it's you know, it doesn't seem to be having the effect that the union had probably gone in for. And also the union leader was in agreement of that settlement that the government offered. So that makes you wonder, when is it going to end? Where is it going to end? Like I said, nursing is a vocation. I'm not saying that, you know, obviously we need to be paid well. We've got the high standards of living at the moment, but I just think should patients be at the detriment of these actions?
Yeah. Dr. Anita Raja, that's really interesting.
I don't believe that they should be.
No, really interesting talking to Naomi because she's a nurse. She's a member of the union. You know, but we know that popular support is still on the side of nurses striking, but I wonder how many more people might start to think, you know, if these strikes cause harm, they shouldn't go ahead. You don't think they should be banned?
That's right. Because first of all, you know, you drew this comparison between military officers, police officers and NHS workers, which would be nurses and doctors. But I do want to clarify that doctors and nurses are employees, not crown servants. If the military were to go on a strike, it would be a state of anarchy. The country would be in a state of mutiny and it would be a threat to the public. Hence, they can't strike. But when it comes to nurses and doctors, even despite the draconian union trade laws, they do have the right to strike if they're not happy about the situation that the NHS is in right now. And if we were to look at the situation, somebody needs to whistleblow, somebody needs to highlight that pay restoration is strongly linked to recruitment, retention, and, after all, patient care. 43,000 people have died in 2022 alone because the ambulance couldn't get to them on time, which means that 120 people were dying every single day before the ambulance could even get to them to pick them up. Now, 250,000 people have died alone in the past 13 years due to austerity. We know that NHS austerity is a big issue here. We know that the staffing is dire. 50,000 nurses short, 5,000 nurses in the past 12 months have left for other countries. 35% of your UK-trained doctors have left for other countries in the past 12 months, and we are sat here thinking that we're going to drag the NHS workers into court and make it more difficult. I think Steve Barclay is on the wrong side over here.
Dr. Raja, clearly the NHS is under huge pressure. Nurses' pay, doctors' pay has gone down in real terms, other NHS workers, but also this is the first nurses' strike for a very long time in history, really. But in previous strikes, the union was quite careful to say that they were going to maintain standards and cover. They're now saying there will be no exemptions even for emergency care, for cancer care. I just wondered, even if you're supporting the strikes, do you think it's wise of the nurses to be withdrawing their labour in A&E?
Now, I'll tell you something. You've raised a very good question here, Ed, and I want to say that it took 106 years for the nurses to walk out. So that's a long time. And it is the job of the NHS trusts to get cover in case the nurses are striking, which they are able to do. The NHS Trust, the government is happy to spend billions and millions of pounds on locum staff, bank staff, and they will be able to do that, let me assure you. Yes, it's going to affect the NHS Trust in terms of money, monetary loss, yes. But when it comes to patient care, let me give you some evidence. In the past, there has been absolutely no evidence to support that strikes have ever affected patient care, because usually what tends to happen is that if there is a doctor strike, the consultant will step down to an SHO level, to a junior doctor level. If the nurses are striking, for instance, there'll be other nurses that will be recruited from bank staff who would happily be doing that job. So I don't think that that's going to be a major issue. I mean, there's absolutely no evidence to suggest that.
But you did say to us a moment ago that part of the crisis in the NHS is it's very hard to recruit doctors and nurses, and they are leaving the profession or going to get jobs abroad. I just wonder, how easy is it to recruit these extra agency nurses, and is it going to cost lots and lots of money?
Yes, it will. So the government needs to sit down and think, if we are now employing doctors from abroad, back in the day when you used to come to the UK, for instance, I am an international medical graduate, there was a very robust system. You had to take exams, there was a licensing system. Now you can come to the UK, nurses and doctors are recruited through different routes where there are exemptions that are made. So the public is not aware of the way the recruitment system works now. So yes, it's very easy to recruit people, but retention is an issue. So these people will use the UK as a stepping stone. They'll stay here and they'll move on to better places. Because if you've worked in the NHS for 1 year now, countries like New Zealand will welcome you with open arms. So what has UK become? UK has become an excellent training ground for nurses and doctors that become much more valuable once they've come into the system, so they can go to other countries that pay them better.
Naomi, you're the nurse in this situation. The doctor is in disagreement with you. How does that make you think?
Yeah, I think like the doctor just hit the nail on the head. It's all around retention, and there's lots of issues and problems in the NHS. There's lots of issues and problems within each hospital. All hospitals are not the same. The shortage of pay and the pay issue is not universal. Some hospitals are better managed. If we deal with management, some managers are in posts that they shouldn't be in. Some managers are being paid quite well. So I think we need to look at the structure and the organisational aspects of the NHS hospitals and look at some that are doing better. It's not a universal issue. If it was, all nurses would be striking. Yeah. And I know that there's far bigger problems within the NHS, such as bullying and harassment and retention, like you said. No amount of money is going to enable a nurse to tolerate some of the treatment and the behaviours that they're being exposed to.
And
you can't just put money into an organisation that's failing.
Can I just ask you one other question, Naomi? If the strike goes ahead in a few days' time, will you be going to work? And how will you feel about your colleagues who are on strike?
Well, I'll absolutely be going to work because I will always put my patients' safety and outcomes first. Like I said, I do respect others that want to take to the picket line and strike. That's up to them. But me, I'll just carry on doing my nursing as I... that's what I do. I'm a nurse and I'm proud to be a nurse. And yeah.
Thank you, Naomi. We really appreciate you talking to us today, and to Dr. Raja as well for joining us. And we'll find out what happens in the legal judgment about whether the strike is lawful at midday today. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks both very much indeed. Let's have a look at the update on the poll that we are running this morning. Here we go. Drum roll, please. Yeah. Should nurses be legally stopped from striking? Remains stubbornly at no, almost 80% of you. And only a minority back legal action against nurses. Very interesting debate. Thank you.